Story 1, The Rearview Mirror, A Midnight Drive, submitted by Pursued Sue. So I was driving home one night, right? Just an ordinary night. The kind of night that doesn't really make you think twice. It's weird how normal everything felt. It was late, I was tired, and the roads were mostly empty. Typical. The route was familiar. I had driven it 100 times, but that night something felt off. I know, it sounds cliche, but it's true. My mind was racing, and I couldn't shake this eerie feeling. My favorite radio station was playing some old hits, but it wasn't enough to distract me. It started when I was driving past that old forested area, the one just before the long stretch of empty road leading to my house. I glanced at my rearview mirror and saw this shadowy figure standing on the side of the road. I remember thinking it was strange, but you know how it is. I figured it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. A few miles later, I checked my side mirrors, and there it was again. A shadowy figure, but now it was closer. Was I being followed? I told myself it was impossible and laughed it off, but I wasn't laughing for long. As I kept driving, I could feel the sensation of being watched. I tried to brush it off, but something inside me told me to look again. I glanced in my rearview mirror, and this time, the figure was even closer. It had a smile, a creepy, wide smile that sent a chill down my spine. I remember the goosebumps, the way my heart was pounding. I started driving faster, telling myself I was just overreacting. But that smile stayed in my mind, haunting me. I don't know how, but the figure was keeping pace with me. I'd glance in the mirror, and there it would be. That shadowy figure, that creepy smile. It was getting closer. I could almost see the gleam in its eyes. I called my best friend, panicked, told her what was happening. She tried to calm me down and said it was just my imagination, that I was tired and seeing things. I tried to believe her. I really did. But that smile, those eyes, they were real. I was almost home. That's when I saw the figure one last time. I looked in my side mirror, and it was right there, right next to my car. Its face was inches away from the window. That smile was wider than ever, those eyes staring right into my soul. I screamed and swerved, nearly losing control of the car. I glanced again, and it was gone, vanished into thin air. But the feeling remained, that sense of dread, that haunting smile. I made it home, but I've never been the same. I've tried to convince myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but deep down, I know what I saw was real. That shadowy figure, that creepy smile, it's something I'll never forget. I still drive that road, but never at night. I always keep my eyes on the road and never daring to look in the mirrors, because I know that somewhere out there, that shadowy figure is waiting, and it's smiling. That's my story. Believe it or not, it's up to you. But be careful next time you're driving alone at night. Whatever you do, don't look in the rearview mirror. Story 2, The Late Night Route, by your friendly driver 18. You wouldn't believe what happened to me a couple months ago. I still get chills thinking about it. I've been driving buses for about a decade now, seen some pretty odd stuff. But that night, that late night route, it was something else entirely. It was past midnight, and I was working the last shift of the evening. The route was one of those looped around the outskirts of town. Rarely anyone on it. It's quiet and mundane, the kind of route that lets your mind wander. But this night was different. I had just pulled away from one of those stops when I noticed an old lady standing on the side of the road. She was all hunched over, wearing tattered clothing and a bonnet that hid most of her face. What made me uncomfortable was her smile, an unnaturally wide, creepy smile that seemed to stretch too far across her face. She signaled for the bus, so I pulled over. She got on, still smiling that creepy smile, and fumbled with her change. Her eyes never met mine. She shuffled to the back of the bus and sat down. I looked in the rearview mirror, and she was still smiling, staring right at me. I shivered, but shrugged it off and continued on my way. A few stops later, a little kid got on. He looked about 8 or so. His hair was unkempt. His clothing was dirty, but what caught my attention was his eyes. They were hollow, emotionless. He didn't say a word, just handed me a crumpled dollar and walked to the back of the bus, sitting near the old lady. Something about him just wasn't right. I felt a chill run down my spine. The night wore on. The bus got emptier and emptier until it was just me, the creepy old lady, and the scary little kid. They never spoke a word to each other. They just sat there, staring. I could feel their eyes on me, and it was unnerving to say the least. Finally, we reached the end of the route, and I pulled into the last stop. I looked back expecting them to get off, but they just sat there, still smiling, still staring. My heart started pounding in my chest as I realized something was terribly wrong. I called out to them, "End of the line, time to get off," but they didn't move. I had to get them off the bus, but something deep inside me was screaming not to approach them. I knew I couldn't handle this on my own. I felt trapped, stuck on that bus with the creepy old lady and eerie little kid. I tried to keep calm, but their unrelenting stares sent a terror through me I can't describe. I had to get off the bus. I got up from my seat, never taking my eyes off them, and stumbled down the stairs. My heart pounded in my chest. I reached for my phone and dialed for help, explaining the situation in a voice that trembled with fear. The dispatcher assured me that someone would be on their way and instructed me to stay nearby. I stood outside the bus, glancing through the windows. They were still there, still smiling, still staring. Time seemed to crawl as I waited for help to arrive, every moment filled with anxiety and dread. Finally, the police car pulled up and an officer stepped out. I explained the situation, and we cautiously approached the bus. I peered through the window, expecting to see those haunting faces once more, but they were gone. The old lady and the kid had disappeared without a trace. The officer searched the bus thoroughly, but there was no sign of them, no evidence that they were ever there. But I know what I saw. I know they were real. I don't drive the late night route anymore. I still look over my shoulder, half expecting to see that creepy smile or those empty eyes. But all that's left of that night are memories. Memories that chill me to the bone and remind me that some things are better left unexplained. I share this now, not because I expect you to believe me, but as a warning. Be careful out there. You never know what might be waiting for you in the dark. Story 3, The Forgotten Road, submitted by Posey Cess. I never really believed in the supernatural or anything like that, but there's something about an experience I had last summer that's been gnawing at me ever since. It's so absurd, I've been hesitant to even write it down, but maybe getting it out there will help me move on. So here it is. I was driving home late one night, and I decided to take a shortcut. Big mistake. The route took me down this forgotten road lined with decrepit and abandoned buildings. My parents had warned me about this area, said it wasn't safe and that strange things had happened there. But being the stubborn teen that I was, I ignored them. The moment I turned onto that road, everything felt wrong. My radio started playing static. The streetlights were out, and the only thing I could hear was the soft purr of my car's engine. A chill ran down my spine. I brushed it off and continued to drive. That's when I saw him. A small boy, couldn't have been more than 5 years old, standing alone by the side of the road. He was pale, wearing old-fashioned clothing and clutching a ragged stuffed animal. I slammed on the brakes. What was he doing there all alone in the middle of nowhere? I rolled down my window and called out to him, "Hey kid, are you okay?" He didn't say a word. He just turned his eyes towards me. Those eyes, they were empty, almost soulless. I was torn. Part of me wanted to get out of the car and help him, but something deep inside was screaming at me to leave. My heart was pounding in my chest. I knew something was off. I called the authorities to report the child, but never took my eyes off him. The operator assured me that someone would be there soon, so I decided to stay put and keep an eye on the boy. Then he started to move towards me, slowly. Every step he took was deliberate, and his eyes never left mine. The closer he got, the more I could see that there was something not right about him. That's when I noticed it. Behind one of the broken windows of an old building, there was a flicker of movement. A face, a young female's face, twisted in fear, peeking out from behind the dark glass. It was there for just a second, then gone. I looked back at the boy, and he was now right beside my car, his hand reaching for the door handle. I panicked. I put the car in drive and sped away, my heart in my throat, glancing in the rearview mirror until he was out of sight. I don't think I've even breathed until I reached the next town. I never found out what happened to the boy or who the girl was. The police said they never found anyone when they went to check, but I know what I saw, and I'll never take that road again. If you ever find yourself on a lonely, forgotten road, surrounded by abandoned buildings, and you come across a small, pale boy with soulless eyes, don't stop. Just keep driving, and whatever you do, don't look back, because something just might be looking back at you.